Today on the Startup Basement, we talk about the biggest challenges and opportunities that currently exist in the work from home industry. Find out how solving some of these problems could be a lucrative opportunity for you, the inspiring entrepreneur and investor. Let's get into it.
You are watching the Startup Basement TV.
The future is now. On this YouTube channel, I will research and analyze the missing links between business, industry, and technology. Together, let's build the next big thing. Okay, so one of the biggest challenges that organizations are going to face as this remote from home revolution really kicks off is going to be how they collaborate. And they're going to need better collaboration tools so they can continue to run their business as normal. As millions of Americans start to work from home, and this trend will grow even after the pandemic is over, I think this is a trend that's here to stay. And so it's going to be a serious challenge for organizations to restructure how their workflow and how they do their processes that allow them to execute their business, produce their product, or deliver their service to their customers. And as more and more of their employees start to work from home, they're going to have to basically modify how they do things slightly to make up for the fact that their employees are not at their office doing the normal processes that they've been doing in the past. And so that's going to be probably the biggest challenge overall that most businesses are going to face. It's going to be the biggest challenge in regards to this remote work from home trend that they're going to deal with. And it's probably going to have the largest impact on their business, right? Because employees have to be productive. And if the way in which they're operating has changed where they're siloed and you have 10, 20, 30, 100, 1,000 different employees in 1,000 different locations and they're working alone and they're not around their coworkers, they're not in the same office as their managers, well, the processes that they used to do is going to change and they're going to need to be able to continue to execute the work the same way as if they're in the office. So they're going to need new tools, new capabilities for their individual employees to be able to do that. And one of the ways that they're going to do that is with collaboration software. Now, let's look at an example of what collaboration software is. It's Microsoft Teams, it's Slack, it's Atlassian. What does this software do? Well, let's think about it like this. What is a business? A business is just a collection of people or employees working collaboratively for the same goal, the same end, or to deliver the same solution to a user or a customer, right? That's basically what they are. It's just people working together, executing a business, executing a solution, right? What is typically a business? It's a physical location where a whole bunch of people come in to work together, right? And they typically have processes to deliver their service. They might be answering emails. They might enter information into a system. They might print that information out in a certain format and give it to a different department. Then that department might put it into another system, and ultimately you end up with an output, right? And that might be delivering the service to the customer or end user, right? But if you have thousands of employees working at your physical location and now at home in different locations, that process that you used to do in your office is going to change. And that's going to happen all over the United States and all over the world when people start working from home. So now what you need is a digital headquarters for all those millions of people working from home. You need a replication of the physical office digitally. Now, what is the digital headquarters or collaboration software? Well, essentially, it's a place where everybody can be under one roof digitally. That means you can go into the software, you can search any employee, you can contact that employee, you can send documents to that other person, you can call them, you can have a video chat with them, you can use third-party software that they use and see what they're doing, right? It's a digital version or a digital headquarters, right? And that's what collaboration software is, and that's what thousands of businesses are going to need as they start allowing lots of their employees to work from home. So let's think about this from an entrepreneur perspective, right? Because this shows about the opportunities and pain points and challenges for entrepreneurs who want to build businesses and the opportunities for investors who want to buy into stocks that are going to grow in 1 to 5 years, right? So from an entrepreneurial perspective, right? What do you want to build? Well, let's look at something that already exists, and we're going to talk about this later about what you should be looking to invest in if you want to benefit from this work from home trend.
Now, personally, I think the work from home trend is going to be a long-term trend that's going to grow a lot of industries, because when you start to have millions of basically Americans change their behavior, that destroys old industries and create new industries. Think about basically the internet and how it fundamentally changed marketing, right? Typically, you used to pay lots of money to have basically a low physical location in a high traffic area, right? Like if you were Pizza Hut, you would pay top dollar to be in a high traffic area, because that was the marketing. It was called curb appeal. Millions of cars passed by a year, and they would price the real estate and the rent based around that. But now the internet hits, Google hits, and all of a sudden, before people go anywhere, they just search what they want first. That fundamentally changed real estate, changed so many industries, changed marketing, changed television ads, right? Because now people don't necessarily need to see your physical building before they find what they want. They just know they want pizza. They type it into Google and a whole bunch of names pop up. And the one that has the best offer and the best value proposition to the customer, they can just stick it in their GPS and go there. And all of a sudden, the curb appeal has less strength than it used to have. Well, that's the same thing that's going to happen in the remote from home revolution. When people are not driving to work all the time, where people are not eating out at restaurants on their lunch break all the time, that's going to have an effect on multiple industries. And as an entrepreneur, you want to be able to trace how these changes are going to play out for you could build the right businesses or invest in the right companies. So let's talk about this work from home thing right here, right? You're going to have millions of employees essentially working from home, okay? And as an entrepreneur, you want to think about, okay, I want to build a product that's going to benefit from this change in behavior that millions of businesses and employees are going to have. And you also want to target the largest industries where there's going to be a lot of demand. Well, we just identified that the biggest challenge or problem that our organization is going to face is the need for remote collaboration tools where they can continue to run their business, given the fact that their employees are spread out all over the United States working from home, right? So Microsoft Teams, Slack, and Atlassian, I just explained to you, is a digital organization, is a digital headquarters in software that allows them to communicate, collaborate, send messages, make calls, find anybody in the organization, share documents all under one roof, right? That's what it does. However, these are billion-dollar products. Microsoft Teams made by Microsoft. Slack just bought by Salesforce for $27 billion. Atlassian, another collaboration software that's used by a lot of technical organizations that do software engineering and other things like that, right? These are billion-dollar companies that were startups that were turned from small software products that were funded by venture capitalists with hundreds of millions of dollars where they can grow their user base into these products that eventually went public. Now, as an entrepreneur, I focus on individual entrepreneurs on this show and people who want to build small startups. And so I like to be more practical. If you don't want to build an entire company that requires a whole engineering team and venture capitalists to back you, then the way to think about building something for this part of the industry who needs collaboration software is to always target the niches, right? The way Microsoft Teams and Slack and Atlassian is designed is for enterprises. It has all the basic features that any business need, right? Remember I said any business need a database of all the employees that work there. Any business need a way to reach out to any of those employees and video chat with them, to send a message to them, to share documents with them, to see what software they're using within the organization all under one roof. Every organization kind of needs those basic things. And so Teams, Slack, and Atlassian are enterprise software to target people who have, 20,000 employees, 10,000 employees, 5,000 employees, right? But as an entrepreneur, you may not want to build a business that does collaboration software and try to compete with these big guys. And it may be hard for you to really get their business given they're well funded and they have the best security and all this other stuff that these large companies are going to want. So how should you approach this as an entrepreneur, right? You know that work from home is here to stay. You know that millions of small businesses and large businesses are going to start to allow people to work from home. The best way you'd approach this problem is you should create collaboration software, but target a niche product. So I'll give you an example. commercial real estate. A lot of commercial real estate businesses or companies probably could work from home, the majority of their employees. And actually, they'll probably benefit from working from home because commercial real estate is interested in physical markets, right? Everybody who works for your commercial real estate firm wants to be near the buildings and the real estate that they're representing. And a lot of times they represent buildings in multiple cities in multiple states. So instead of them having a physical office where they're paying expensive real estate fees for their employees to come into those actual offices, they may benefit highly from just making their organization mainly remote, where they can have an employee in every different state where they own real estate. And so, first of all, you should target businesses that will benefit the most from switching from a physical office to work from home. That should be your number one thinking. Number two, you should pick niche businesses, and within your collaboration software, put processes that are distinct to that specific industry. Like for instance, in commercial real estate, they sign contracts. They keep track of actual physical pictures. There's certain processes and steps that they have to go through that only the commercial real estate industry does. And you should design your software only creating those workflow and steps in that software step by step. So when they adopt that software as a commercial real estate firm, it solves their specific problem in their specific industry when it comes to collaboration. The great thing by going after the niche is you're not competing against Microsoft Teams, Slack, and Atlassian, because Microsoft Teams and Slack and Atlassian has made a generalized universal product that anybody can use. And so they're not going to put specific workflows or processes that associate with commercial real estate in their product, because they're not going to do that just for commercial real estate when they're targeting pretty much the macro market of everybody. So by doing that, you will be able to compete against Microsoft Teams, Slack, and Atlassian, because a real estate team would say, I'd rather have your software that's tailored to my specific industry instead of using this universal software that doesn't give me the detailed processes that really make my life easier, that really allow a commercial real estate business to work remotely. So that's how you should be thinking about this opportunity. Number one, you should be thinking about what industries are basically most likely going to go remote, and what industries are going to benefit the most from going remote given their current business structure. Like how much money are they going to save not having to actually have a physical office? Which ones are obvious are going to go remote as this trend goes on? And secondly, what niche do I want to target where I can build in specific steps and processes into the software that that industry is going to love and want to use your product? So that's how I would look at this opportunity from an entrepreneur perspective when it comes to the lack of tools available for remote collaboration, right? That's the problem that's going to be facing by most industries. And the solution is going to be, hey, I'm going to pick a niche industry and build a collaboration software with specific processes that are in line with that particular business and how they do things. That way I can build the perfect product for the perfect industry. And that way I also don't have to worry about competing against these billion-dollar businesses like Microsoft Teams, Slack, and Atlassian. The next big challenge that companies are going to face is employees' home networks are vulnerable. Think about it. When you work at a company, they're spending thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars, on hardware security and cloud security, and they're able to control their environment, right? They have a technical team that's there, that's ready to deal with any attacks. They have expensive products protecting all their computers. They have server rooms protected by expensive VPNs. And all of a sudden, let's say 1/3 of their employees are working from home in different locations, right? So all these locations are not protected, right? Some people are going to be working on their own computer. And even if they're working on their company computer, they're going to be working on weaker internet connection, not commercial grade connections, right? So there's going to be all these new opportunities to get attacked by cyber attacks. And these companies are going to have to protect their very valuable proprietary data. So this is going to be a humongous challenge for a lot of companies as they start to allow more in their workforce work from home, but this also represents an opportunity for you, their inspiring entrepreneur. So before I get into how you should think about taking advantage of this, if you're an entrepreneur, a small business owner, or software creator, I'm gonna first tell you what are those specific challenges that exist security-wise. Well, number one, you're gonna have a challenge securing access to the corporate network, right? So most people who work for other companies, even if you work from home on your own computer, you're gonna probably be connecting to corporate assets, right? And most of the time when you're connecting to those assets, these companies have those assets protected. But now that you're not in the office, they're gonna need some type of cloud security program that makes sure that they're protected. They're also gonna need a VPN, a virtual private network. And a lot of times when you work from home, what they're going to have you do is connect to a virtual private network. So that means that if you connect to one of their company servers to perform your job task, they're going to block a lot of internet traffic and websites out where you're only connecting with them to make sure no outside hacker can come in through the internet and steal their data, right? But most VPNs at older legacy companies are hardware-based VPN systems that only give you that protection if you're in the physical office. Now that all these people are going to be working from home, they're going to need to buy new services that offer cloud-based VPN services where they can protect their networks while you work from home. Another significant challenge is people at home have way more than one device. So for hackers, that's a way for them to really get in multiple levels into your networks and stop you from what you're doing. So let me give you an example. If you're working from home, you may have a laptop. Your wife may have a laptop. Your kids may have a cell phone. You may have a Kindle. You may have a Kindle Fire. You may have an iPad. All of them are connecting to the internet. So all of a sudden, you have 20 different entry points for a hacker to get into your networks. And these are more advanced mobile networks, which are tougher to secure. So just because your laptop is secured, you're still making the network risky if they can get in a different way and eventually get into your business laptop and get to the company's data. So now they're gonna need more sophisticated mobile-based, cloud-based solutions. So you're going to see companies either reaching out to companies that offer this service. And so I'm going to point you in the right direction of a stock that's been growing and that will benefit for more and more people working from home needing security. So we'll talk about that in a second. Another need or challenge they're going to need is they're going to need virtual security training, right? They're going to need a way to virtually train their employees how to operate more safely, right? Because most companies have an IT department, and when something bad happens to the computer or they need it fixed, they typically just really call an IT guy over and they'll fix it for the employee, right? Because every employee is not a technical person. Now there's going to be a need for training, right? You're going to need to train your work from home employee base how to do their job in a way where they're not taking unnecessary risks. So not only are you going to make sure that they're not on bad sites, you're going to make sure that they have virus protection on their systems, but you're going to also make sure that they're not doing risky things the way they operate their computer and the way they live their life in their house that risk your organization losing data. So that's going to be a challenge that organizations are going to have to figure out. How are we going to train these people? Do we want to do it ourselves? Do we want to use an outsourced team? So this is another challenge, but also an opportunity for an entrepreneur who's looking for a business to start, right? And the way you start businesses is to find problems, either old problems or new problems that customers are having or businesses are having, and you offer solutions. That's how you start a business. That's how you make sure there's an actual need there. Let's look at another one, storing corporate data on their devices. A lot of times companies they have their own files. They use their own Word documents with their own proprietary information, right? And if you're using your own computer, you may be storing those documents on your physical computer, right? A lot of companies are going to want to make sure that they're protected, that nobody's going to hack your system and take that data, right? So there's going to be two things that can happen is they're going to either need, like I said, some type of security system, or they're going to want to have some type of cloud storage platform like Google Drive or Microsoft 360, where you can basically dictate those documents in the cloud, and now they're protected by the enterprise level cloud security that Microsoft might offer or Google might offer. So like I said, now that you're making documents, creating documents that are company related, and you're doing it from home, they may not want you to store those documents just on your laptop where anybody can hack in and get to those documents. So a new need again, right? That's a new need. They need to protect their physical files and proprietary information. More cloud security going to be needed. And also, as I already said, teleworking exposed to broader surface attacks. Another thing that is going to probably come up is as more and more people start to work from home, I think that hackers are going to realize that all of a sudden, all of this, customer or company data is going to be available. And instead of trying to attack a corporate network, which is way better protected, they're going to realize, hey, we can actually target these employees working from home. And one of the ways I think they're going to do it is through LinkedIn. The LinkedIn parishing. Parishing or phishing is basically where you send somebody a message and you trick them to giving you the information to get into their system. And the reason that this is going to be a big deal is a lot of people publish what they do, what company they work for, what their position is on LinkedIn. So these hackers can go on LinkedIn and say, this guy works from home. He works for this company, and they can target that guy. So really, this is going to be a significant issue for security. And that's why it's such a big challenge for organizations as they start working from home. But that also represents a significant opportunity for you, the inspiring entrepreneur. Now that you understand the challenges that home networks are going to be facing as employees start working from home, let's talk about what are the opportunities for an entrepreneur, right? What is the opportunities for an entrepreneur? Now, I don't think most entrepreneurs want to start a cloud security company. It's a little difficult, so I'm going to give you some pointers on how to think about these challenges these businesses are having and how you can come up with solutions that maybe an individual entrepreneur can come up with. So I would probably start with the more simpler things first. Like if you're an IT person who knows about security, employers are going to need to train security people how to not do dumb things while they're working from home that can make their organization vulnerable. So one idea is you can create some type of training course, right, with the certification process that has one-on-one training where you can basically meet with each employer and go through, or employee on the behalf of the employer, and go through what to do and what not to do and teach them about all the paraching and all that stuff. And you can offer that to organizations when they onboard new people. Whenever they onboard new people, you could be the security professional and you could offer it as a service or consulting to get them basically a platform to let their employers know what the type of risk they're going to be operating in when they work from home, right? So that's a service that you could probably start with some money, very little money, if you already have the experience in how security works. So that's one way you can approach this opportunity. Secondly, if you're a technical person, obviously, then the obvious trick would be to create some, new age technology that allows companies to protect their networks remotely better. Now, I'm going to get into some opportunities for investors who may want to benefit from this work from home revolution. So as more and more companies, if not thousands or millions of employees start to work from home, these companies are going to need this new age security. And one of the companies I recommend you taking a look at is a company called CrowdStrike. And I think that, and it already has during the pandemic around March, it was around $39. Since then, or since a year, it's already been up all the way to $215. That's over 266% growth in less than a year. And the reason you see that growth is largely because of the pandemic and largely because of the new need to actually secure remote employees network. So I think that this is a trend that's going to continue to grow, and I recommend you take it and look at this stock. Now, remember, on this channel, we're mainly recommending this to take a look at. We're not telling you to invest in it. We're not telling you that we've reviewed the fundamentals. We're simply telling you that this is one of the top stocks that are going to benefit from remote people working from home, and you should probably take a look at it. You can find it on Robinhood. It's called CrowdStrike. And again, in March, it was around 39. It's up 266%. And a lot of that growth is directly connected to the pandemic, people working from home, and this trend's only going to grow. So I do think this is a company that you do want to stay in touch with. Now, what is particular about this company that makes it the right choice for a lot of employers that are going to need to protect home networks? One of the issues is this company actually integrates with machine learning and cloud computing. Also, it has a Falcon platform with the ability to reduce risk of data breaches, improve investigation speed, and minimize reliance on support personnel. So basically what it is it's a cloud security platform that uses machine learning. And a lot of its SOX environment, that means the environment in which they find threats, is done with software, and it's also continuously learning. So instead of it just protecting your environment and then them updating the software to new threats every once in a while, every customer that they have, whenever they get attacked, it learns from that attack and then updates the algorithm where your company is getting more and more protected. So if it has 20,000 customers and 10,000 attacks happen, everything they learn from those attacks goes into the algorithm, and they automatically send that information to the software, and it checks your system for those new attacks. So it's constantly learning, the algorithm is constantly improving, and you're getting better and better, more and more protection as the company grows and adds more people to its network. So that's why it's so powerful. Another reason this is powerful is the software is a pure play system. That means that it actually is platform agnostic. It works equally well on Linux, Mac, and Windows environment. So it's a cloud-based software. So a lot of companies that understand that you're going to be working from home and you're going to have a laptop, you're going to have a cell phone, you're going to have a Google Home, it has the ability to protect all of those different type of devices in many ways because of its platform agnostic. Lastly, it operates, like I said before, from that network effect. It collects data from all the protected customers and clients it have, and then it learns and improves that algorithm. So a lot of companies are going to be looking for these next generation cloud security solutions, and CrowdStrike is one of those. So as an entrepreneur or investor, you definitely want to go take a look at this, because in the next 1 to 3 years, more and more people will be working from home, and this is going to be a company that's probably going to benefit from this trend. The next major challenge in the work from home revolution that companies are going to be facing is difficulty tracking and monitoring employees remotely. Basically, if employees are working from home, how does the employer know that they're working? How do they know that they're motivated? How do they know that they're engaged? How do they know that they're being productive? Are they in front of their computer? Are they already done with their work and they're just at their house watching Netflix? Well, employers are going to care about this, because typically when they work in the office, they know these things. They can see you at your desk. They can see you when you're not at your desk. They can walk up to you. You can interact with other people at the company. They can have meetings. So there's a lot of ways to keep you engaged and motivated. And how are they going to keep company culture? A survey showed that 97% of people surveyed that company culture matters before they accept a job. How are they going to maintain that company culture? What is company culture? It's simply the ideals and practices of the people that you're working around. How are you going to feel connected to an organization if you're working from home? You're not around any of your coworkers, managers, or leadership. So these are some of the challenges that these employers are going to be facing as millions of people start to work from home. And you should be thinking about, as an entrepreneur, how can I help employers solve some of these problems? So let's just get into these problems individually, and then we'll work our way over to basically how to think about solving these problems from an entrepreneurial perspective. And lastly, we're going to look at a stock that you may want to invest in, that you should at least at the minimum take a look at, because it may benefit from this work from home trend and help solve some of these problems that these employers are going to be faced with when it comes to tracking employees remotely. So first question that most employers are going to ask, whether they tell you or not, is, are my employees actually working? And one of the ways that they can currently do that is they have basically employee remote tracking software. Essentially, it's software that's installed behind the scenes, and it records your screen and send a screenshot to the employer every couple seconds so they can see what you're doing. They also track what website you go on, how many times you click your mouse, how many times you use your keyboard. And so it goes into the software, and then it creates a quantification of all those different activities to give you a production score. He's X productive. This person's more productive. And so this type of software is really frowned upon by a lot of employees, because nobody wants to work for a company that basically is tracking everything you do, because they're basically telling you, we don't trust you. So there are always going to be employees who use it anyways, and a lot of these employers don't even tell you that they're using it, and if employees find out, they're very, very mad. So in my personal opinion, I don't think it's the correct solution. The solution is not to secretly court your employees and track them and then basically turn them into robots or numbers. I think that you're not going to build a great company culture, and smart employees who have talent that can go somewhere else will. So the challenge is going to be, how do we actually make sure employees are doing their job when they're working remotely? And I think that from an entrepreneur perspective, if you're an entrepreneur looking for an ideal to solve, I think that you need to think about it along these lines. How can I help an employer track the activity or workflow or the output of an employee without doing it behind their back? How can it be transparent as possible, where the employee knows you're tracking them, but they're not tracking them on everything they do, and the employer is getting that information to make sure that you're doing what you're supposed to do and being productive? You need both parties involved. So you should be thinking about this from an entrepreneurial perspective. What can I do to do that? Can I create software similar to what's already exists? But how can I make that software more transparent where you're not going to offend your employees? So start thinking about that right now, because that's a great opportunity, because as more and more people start work from home, employers are going to need to track and really keep track of what their employees are basically doing. Next, how do I manage my remote workers? How do I keep track of what they're working on and how that fits into everything else in the organization, right? If they're working from home and then you have half the other organization working in the physical location, then you're probably going to need some work or project management software. And a lot of companies are already using project management software like Microsoft Projects. Also, there's a new company called Asana, which we're going to talk about toward the end, that's going to benefit from this demand of employees needing more cloud-based work management and project management software as more and more people start working from home. So that big question still stands: how do I manage all these new employees who are working from home? Basically, what project management software is it tracks all the tasks and activities and projects that a company is working on within the organization. And a manager can go in and see what everybody's working on, how far they're along on it. And it's similar to the first problem: how do I know my employees are actually working? But the difference is it's only tracking and letting everybody in the organization know what they're working on. They have to manually update, okay, I've done this, I've done that, and then so everybody can see what everybody else is working on and how far along they are. So that solves part of the problem of how do I know my employees are actually working? But it doesn't definitely tell you they're actually working, right? And so that's where that first piece come in. How do I know they're actually working? Most companies have cameras in their buildings, and so they can see if you're at your desk or not, or they got managers sitting at a desk right next to you, so they can see if you're at your desk or not. But if you're working from home, of course, there's going to be some employees who are going to want to slack off. There's going to want to try to beat the system. So they're going to want ways to defend against that. But when it comes to the project management software that already exists, this is kind of a mature space. It's been around for a very, very long time. However, they're going to need new, more up-to-date cloud-based software that's very easy to use, because a lot of these people who are going to be working from home are not going to be technical people. They're not used to necessarily using project management software. But now that you're working from home, you're definitely going to have to use project management software. So there's going to be a need for more of that type of software. And as I said, I'm going to tell you about a company that's probably going to benefit a lot from the growth and demand of people working from home when it comes to work management software. Lastly, are employees motivated and engaged? A lot of companies are going to be scratching their head, thinking about how am I going to keep my employees motivated and engaged? How am I going to promote a company culture if my employees are not even in the office? They can't benefit from being around their coworkers. They can't benefit from the culture that we design in the company, in the physical building, right? So how do I help my employees stay motivated, wanting to work? How do I make them not feel isolated? So that's going to be a significant problem that's going to require a very creative solution. So if you're an entrepreneur, you should start thinking about that. What can I do to help a company keep its employees who are remote motivated and engaged with the company overall? Now, I can tell you one thing that companies are currently doing. They're using collaboration video sharing platforms like Zoom. So every once in a while, they'll take a break or have a group meeting or a happy hour where the entire group or department or team will get on there and chat and stuff like that, for you can engage with your coworkers. And that's a slight solution, but I don't think it's the only solution. So you should start thinking about, as an entrepreneur, what can I do? What type of service or small mid-sized business can I offer to these employers that can help their employees feel more a part of the company? And one ideal can be a catering or event management business tailored to remote workers. You can target companies that have a lot of workers in a city. You can set up events that are in the physical world, and then you can manage those events and tailor them to the company and their culture, and invite the company to hire your service every once a month or every 3 months, and they can actually come to the event and talk to their actual co-workers, right? And enjoy a day of bowling or a day of basketball or whatever you come up with. But that's a way to take those permanently work from home people and give them an opportunity to actually interact with the company, with their actual co-workers. Now, you're probably thinking, couldn't they just invite them to the office? They could, but you may want to do stuff that's outside of work hours, right? So you may be able to design something and control it and manage it, and then go to the company and offer that. That gives the companies, which are going to have millions of employees working from home 24/7, the opportunity to allow them to actually engage with their coworkers and feel more strongly about their position at the company, right? So that's one way to do it. And then the second way to do it is obviously by creating remote software tools that maybe creates games and puzzles and prizes and tracking fun offerings for the employees. And if you could integrate that into their software, if they're using CRM software, if they're all within Microsoft Teams, that software can have those games running that will keep them engaged. Maybe fun games where they ask questions to their other coworkers and they answer them when they get free time. So there's a lot of clever things you can do to gamify maybe a social experience within some software. So if you're a software developer or somebody like that, start thinking along those lines when it comes to monitoring and attracting remote employees. Just to sum it up, let's look at the opportunity that exists if you're an investor now. Like if you buy Robinhood stock and you're thinking about, hey, I want to benefit from this big need right here. And like, companies are going to have more people than ever working from home, and they're going to need work/project management software, right? To track their employees' work habits, to track what they're currently doing, what they're working on. And it's going to need to be most likely cloud-based, right? Because you're going to have employees all over the place. So you don't want to have to install some software on each computer. So one company that I highly recommend is Asana. Asana is a company that's been benefiting from upward growth since the pandemic. So as more and more companies start to let their employees work from home, they needed a way to manage those employees. And if you can see here, the company went public back in 2020. It IPO'd for around $27. Within a year, it's up 30% to $35. Now, let me tell you why I think this company is going to be a winner in this space when it comes to project management, and also why it's going to probably be a company you want to go take a look at. Now, I'm not saying buy this company. I'm saying go take a look at it based on this remote trend. I do think it's going to be a winner in the next 1 to 3 years. So please do your own research. I'm not telling you to buy. I'm simply saying go put some attention on this company. You need to go do your own research and determine if it's something you want to buy. You need to look at its financials, etc. So what about this company is special? Well, first of all, it is a project management tool, right? It allows a company to manage all their employees, keep track of everything they're working on across the entire organization. Why this company is something that you probably want to look at is, first of all, Asana is a work and project management solution for teams. You can organize everything from company objectives to routine tasks in one place so that everyone's clear about their priorities and responsibilities, and you can monitor the process in real time to keep track of each and every project throughout the entire organization. So why is it a good company you should probably look at? Number one, it's a leader in the work management space. It's either number one or number two. So that's always a good sign. It's a new company. It's a company that was started by 30 and 40-year-olds who have a lot of time to continue to push this company forward. It's young, it's hip, and it's using the technology of today. And that's what companies are looking for. They're looking for the new guys doing it the new way because they know that it's the future. It currently has 89,000 paid clients with over 1.3 million users who are actually using it. Now, the product, compared to other project management software like Microsoft Projects, this particular product is highly differentiated and it's having rapid growth. As you can see here, it's IPO'd at $27. It's already up 30% within the year. It's only going to keep growing. It's about a $6 billion market cap, which is relatively small in today's standards. That means that it has lots of room to grow. Now, what is truly different about the software? Well, I'm going to break it down this way. Typical project management software tracks all the type of work employees are doing, and it lets them know who's working on what and how far along they are on that software, right? What this software aims to do in the long term, its long-term vision, is to basically combine artificial intelligence with human intelligence to boost productivity. And the way they do that is they just structured the software in such a way that each part of the task that you do, what your goal is, what work you're working on, what activity, they broke it down into different buckets that you input. And the way that they structure the software, that in the next phase of the vision, probably in 1 or 2 years, they're going to introduce artificial intelligence that will be able to auto allocate all the work. That means that the manager doesn't have to go in and allocate work and change work and schedule meetings and all that stuff. They're going to automate a lot of things that managers usually have to do in project management software. Project management software is usually quite tedious. You have to set dates, you have to invite people to teams, you have to send out meeting requests. It's going to let artificial intelligence automatically do that stuff. All you have to do is enter in, hey, I have this goal, it needs to be done by this date, these are the people, here are the resources, here are the skills, and it will automatically set up your teams and send out your invites and all that stuff. So that's the long-term vision. It's doing something that a lot of companies are not doing. There's a few other companies who are creating these AI project management software. They're one of the front runners who are doing this. So from a future perspective, if you're going to invest in project management software, you want to invest in the companies that have a vision, that's going to have a vision for the future. So what you should be investing in is not the company of today, but what the company is going to be tomorrow. And so from my assessment, they are doing things that are going to produce humongous value tomorrow. And given the fact that it's only a $6 billion market cap, lots of room to grow. So that's always good. Now, currently the company is not profitable because it's still in the high growth phase where they're trying to get more and more users, but it will probably come near profitability in the next 2 years or so. What is the market is in? $100 billion market, addressable market. We're talking about the project management, work management, collaboration market. So very, very large market. It is a highly competitive market with a lot of fragmented players. However, there is enough room to grow if you have a differentiated product like Asana does. So just a little bit of their vision from the founder's own words. Their goal is to create a platform that ingests massive quantities of structured and unstructured data by which the platform itself creates workflows and manages employees' days through predictive AI modeling. So they have that long-term vision to take a lot of that nitty-gritty, tedious work that managers have to do when they're using project management software and automate it. And so if it turns out that they're right, you're talking about a big winner. So like I said, this is definitely a company that you want to take a look at. Okay guys, we're almost at the end of the show, and as I promised as we begun, I'm going to tell you what I think is going to be the biggest stock that's going to benefit most from the work from home trend. Well, in order to do that, let's first look at our three options. What are the biggest challenges the work from home industry are going to face? They're going to face collaborating remotely, they're going to face security issues, and they're going to face challenges monitoring and making sure employees are productive. Now let's look at those three challenges. If you can't collaborate remotely with your team, then you're never going to allow them to work at home, which means that the security issue won't come up if you can't collaborate with them. And if they're not working from home, then you're not going to have a difficulty monitoring and motivating them because they're going to be working at your physical location. So the obvious choice is going to be collaboration software. More companies all around the world who are going to allow their employees to work from home are going to need to invest massively into collaboration platforms that allow their employees to work from home in the first place. So as an investor, if I want to get the biggest bang for my buck, then I want to start looking at the largest in collaboration platforms because they're going to have the biggest push or the biggest benefit from this work from home revolution. Those three stocks that I would look at would be Microsoft Teams, Slack, and Atlassian. Guys, the biggest beneficiary of the remote from home revolution is most likely going to be Microsoft. They're the biggest brand. They have over 115 million active users. Their Teams is already free and it's included in Microsoft 365. There's already hundreds of companies around the world using Windows operating systems and their suite of products. Not only that, Microsoft Teams is already included in their suite of products. So as they start to need collaboration software, companies can simply just open Microsoft Teams, which is already installed in their package. Microsoft is a well-funded company, so if they need to spend to capture more market share, they can easily do that. So that's a major strength that gives them an advantage over Slack and Atlassian. Also, let's look at Slack. Why not Slack? Well, Slack is a very, very close front runner to Microsoft Teams. However, they don't have that advantage that Microsoft Teams have of already having thousands of customers, millions of users who already use Microsoft products. So it's going to be harder for Slack to convince customers to try out their company as opposed to Microsoft. Not only that, but Microsoft focuses more on enterprise customers. There's a lot of corporate legacy businesses that don't use the more new tools like Slack. They're not necessarily adopting the cloud as quick. So these older legacy companies are more likely to feel comfortable using a legacy business that's been around a long time like Microsoft. When it comes to Atlassian, Atlassian is a collaboration platform. However, it's known for focusing on software developers. It has a product called Jira that lots of software developers use. So it's more of a collaboration platform that focuses on technical teams. If you think about it, companies all around the world are going to go remote, and all of them are not technical companies. So they're going to lean more toward Microsoft Teams and Slack as opposed to Atlassian. I'm not going to go over all the strengths and weaknesses, opportunities and threats of all of these companies. If you want to see them put up next to each other, go to thestartupbasement.com where you can find the head-to-head analysis of Microsoft Teams versus Slack versus Atlassian. Again, you can find that at thestartupbasement.com, so be sure to check that out today. So the big winner, who's most likely going to get the biggest benefit in the early stages, is going to probably be Microsoft. What are some weaknesses that Microsoft have compared to Slack and Atlassian? Well, most likely Microsoft is very Microsoft-centric. So a lot of its products try to force you to use their pre-existing products. So smaller companies, small businesses, freelancers, and more techie companies may not want to use Microsoft products, and Microsoft makes it slightly more difficult to integrate some of those cloud software as a service products with their Microsoft Teams. So that's a slight downside, but I don't think it would stop the supremacy of the need to adopt Microsoft Teams. Secondly, can't invest directly in Microsoft Teams. If you decide to buy Microsoft Teams, you need to buy Microsoft as a company. However, Microsoft Teams is a very, 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 very small piece of Microsoft. So if you're looking for the stock to move when you buy into this work from home revolution by buying collaboration software as your stock pick, it won't move the stock as much as buying Slack, who's currently owned by Salesforce. Salesforce is around a $300 billion company, so it has a lot more room to grow compared to Microsoft. However, Salesforce is also less diversified as Microsoft, so when they adopt Slack, they're going to probably see a larger growth push from more adoption of their products because they have more room to grow. So if you want to buy the most strongest, most safest company that's going to probably benefit greatly from the remote from home revolution, then it's Microsoft. But if you want to get a higher growth rate and have a larger opportunity to grow, then I would probably go ahead and buy Slack. However, keep in mind, these are just recommendations for you to go look at these stocks. We're not telling you to buy them. We're simply telling you where to look. So this is not official financial advice. Lastly, let's look at some opportunities that Microsoft have. Well, we know there's a work from home revolution happening. More people are going to have to work from home. That means that more people are going to have to buy collaboration software. That means that more people are going to use Microsoft Teams, and they're going to buy other products with Microsoft and grow their revenue. So that's going to be an opportunity for Microsoft. Secondly, one thing that Microsoft could do is add more integrations into their software. Slack, the competitor, allows over 2,000 software as a service products to integrate with their software. Microsoft has a lot of room to grow. I think they only allow anywhere between 200 to 300 products. So they're going to need to pick this up if they want to stay head to head with Slack. However, that won't stop Microsoft from being dominant given how many people already use Microsoft products. What are some threats to Microsoft's position in this collaboration software world? Well, Salesforce just bought Slack. Microsoft has 115 million current Microsoft Team users. Slack only has 12 million. However, Salesforce is a $300 billion business. Now they have the funding needed to go fight Microsoft for more market share. That's bad news for Microsoft. However, I don't think it's going to stop them in the first 1 or 2 years from benefiting the most from this work from home trend. Overall, when it comes to collaboration software, Microsoft Teams is probably going to benefit the most in the short run from the remote from home trend. However, if you're looking for more growth opportunity, then I would probably say take a look at Slack, which is going to probably be a $300 billion market cap if it ends up integrating with Salesforce.com. Okay guys, that's going to be our show for today. For more in-depth information and research, visit thestartupbasement.com. And as always, the future is now. From Houston to Silicon Valley, from the basement of your mind to changing the world. I'm your host, Arafat Shabazz, and you have been watching the Startup Basement TV. Till next time, my friends.